Hello viewer out there. The program is Reflections with me, once again, Muhammad Abubakar, this time around. Our guest today is Professor BOLAJI AKINYEMI, CFR, a university don, one-time Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs during the defunct military administration of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, a one-time Director General of the Nigeria Institute of International Affairs, in fact, the fourth in the hierarchy of those that have had the privilege of heading that very, very important institute. A legal luminary par excellence and an expert in conflict resolution. My guest was born on 1st January 1942 at Elisha in the then western region. I guess Elisha is now in Ikiti.
Osun State.
Osun State.
Yes.
It's my pleasure to introduce Professor BOLAJI. Professor BOLAJI AKINYEMI, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here.
Sir, what would the viewer know about your humble background?
Well, I walked barefoot to school, like all my colleagues at that time.
Why?
It's not like now where you pamper kids. Even though my father was principal of a secondary school, but we didn't have social stratification at that time. I mean, nobody will. The concept of the rich elite versus the poor
was not there.
They didn't exist in my time. Therefore, we all went to school carrying our books on our head. Even when my father had a car that could drive me and my siblings to school, it never occurred to them that they should drive us to school. Nobody did. And it never occurred to us, the children, that, in fact, we would have objected. Because I had friends that you walked to school with, and on the way, you know, you buy guguru and granite, you know, to share. We will be missing that. And, you know, the pranks we got up to on our way back home, you know, plucking people's mangoes, oranges. We will miss all that. Who wanted to miss all that? So, and as I said, it didn't occur to our parents, and we didn't feel we were missing anything. Okay. I remember that on Saturdays, you know, we had some of our classmates who went to the where we call it, let's say, the bush, to cut firewood for their parents to sell the wood and make a bit of money. I thought that was good. I wanted to go with them. My mother said no. She didn't need firewood. So, and I said, I wanted to go with them. To me, it was an outing.
To catch fun.
To catch fun. So, I mean, finally, to get me off her back, she agreed. I was so happy. We went, we cut the firewood. They helped me cut mine. I got blisters on my hand from because I wasn't used to it. Carried it on my head, and I was happy. My friends were carrying them. I was carrying my own. Came back, gave my own to my mother. She thanked me. You know, I don't know what she did with it. But now.
So I mean, your childhood was very, very eventful and memorable.
Yes, and I didn't feel that I was being oppressed. I didn't feel that we were poor. But of course, now things will be different. Okay. You ask the kid to go, they say, Mom, how can you ask me to go, you know, carry firewood? Daddy has a car. How can you ask me to walk to school and all these kind of things? And of course, it's the fault of the parents. as the stratification set in, the rich started widening the gap between the rich and the poor. The unfortunate thing is that in my time, and we're talking about the 50s, my father, who was principal of a secondary school, was regarded as a member of the elite in the town, in Elisha. Yes. But it was like that, really, all over Nigeria. Principal of a high school was regarded as a very, after...
They command respect.
They commanded respect. They were consulted, even though they were not members of the traditional council, because most of them were regarded as civil servants. But they would be consulted behind the scene. The respect was there. But not now. Not now. So that's where things started to go wrong, when we started having this stratification between the rich and the poor.
Okay. So, sir, the primary and secondary schools you had were all in Elisha?
Oh, no. I had the primary school in Elisha, and then I took the entrance exam to Igbobi College in Lagos here, and I was admitted. We were from all over the country. I have friends I met. One Mr. Is Dr. Olafemihon now, whose father was in Kaduna. We met him. There's Ofune, who came from Benin. And then we had people from the East. In the school I met the Hebrews, who later on became my senior prefect in Igbobi College. So we were...
Anybody from the northern part?
Yes. I told you about Olafemihon, whose father was the archdeacon in Kaduna. Okay, Kaduna. Yes. But if by the northern part you mean the core north, as we call them now, no. No, not that I remember.
Okay. So how was life at Igbobi College? Was it a boarding school?
It was a boarding school.
Which means you were confined.
Yes, until
within the four corners of the.
Yes, until the open, what we call the open day, when you got an exit to go and spend Saturday with your guardian, or wherever it is you are, as long as you are back by a fixed time. But even then, it was fun. The public transport that you came with would drop you at what we call the Yaba bus stop. That was the last bus stop. You know, by Yaba bus stop. There's a, it's now a big something. And we will carry our boxes on our head and trek all the way to Igbobi College. People knew who we were. We were called Igbobi boys. Nobody molested us. It was fun. And then, you interacted with our teachers who are both Englishmen and Nigerians. You interacted with them, and everything was fun. Discipline was strong.
Very, very strong.
Oh, yes. The school staff emphasized discipline.
Which means that has permeated even within students.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, they freely use the cane for any infraction. And we had a vice principal who believed in the doctrine of don't spare the rod. If you got hold of you.
Were you ever flogged or?
Of course I was.
Severally.
Well, they thought I was naughty. I thought I was just being, a bit rascally.
So, okay. And together with your friends, in a typical, boarding school like the one you attended, Igbobi, bullying between, most especially the stronger students, is very, very possible. Being meted out to younger students. I don't know whether if professor was ever a victim?
No,
You
no,
were not?
I wasn't.
Were you strong enough to?
No. I was one of the smallest in the school.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I was one of the smallest in the school, and one of the youngest. I mean, I went into secondary school at the age of 13.
13.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I was even smaller in stature than my age. So I was the youngest in the school when I came in, and I was the smallest as well. But we had prefects. And because we had an Englishman who was the principal, I think prefects were told that one of their duties was to prevent bullying. And as I told you, Felix Ebro, late Senator Felix Ebro, was the senior prefect my first year. And he took that issue of no bullying very, very seriously. So, no. I was lucky not to be bullied.
Okay.
Let me put it that way.
Up till the time when you finished the school?
Yeah.
Okay.
There were always stronger boys at that time who took an interest in protecting me if situations arose where, somebody was like I was being threatened and so on, who would immediately step in and say, no, you can't cheat him, just because he's small.
Okay. So you came all the way from Elisha to Lagos to pursue secondary education.
Yes.
Were there no secondary schools around that place that time?
Oh no, my father was principal of a secondary school.
Yes, you said so.
But his own position was none of his children would go to Elisha Grammar School, where I was principal, because nobody would believe that the admission was on merit. And they would think you've taken the position and you've deprived somebody just because you are the son of the principal. So he encouraged us to take entrance exams into the prominent schools that were in the West, Government College Ibadan, Christ Ado Ekiti, Igbobi College. They brought forms to us. Not that I never heard of Igbobi. I heard of Christ School because I had an elder brother who went to Christ School. He was 2 years ahead of me. He went to Christ School. So I've heard of Christ School. Then I've also heard of Government College Ibadan, because of sports. But when they brought their forms, your headmaster in the primary school will call you and say, I think you should take the entrance exam to this school. You are smart enough, to get in.
And
so
you sat for the exam?
Oh yes, sat for the
passed.
exam. Passed, yeah.
Okay. So when eventually you finished Igbobi College, what happened next?
Well, I then went to Christ School for my A-level. At that time, A-level was just coming up, was just being introduced into the educational system. So
what was it for?
Higher school certificate.
Okay, just like maybe diploma or IJMB or...
No, lower than that, because diploma you took from, is it not colleges, to prepare you for entrance into universities. Well, whereas with the A-level, if you wanted to go to university, you still took an entrance exam. What was replaced with JAM, okay? But with A-level, with A-levels, even now, you got a straight admission into universities now if you get A-level. Well, in our case, with A-level, you still took an entrance exam into any university of your choice at that time. And in my own time, you had University of Ibadan, Nsukka, and I think EBU.
To go for your...
To go for your degree.
Okay.
Yeah, to go
so
for
you
your
opted
degree.
for...
Well, I didn't go to a Nigerian university. I got a scholarship when I finished to go to an American university in the United States.
And you went?
And I went. Yes. But before then, I think what facilitated my getting a scholarship was I had taken part in an essay competition. We had an essay competition sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Education and the American Embassy at that time. And it was, yes, it was, actually it was worldwide, but they left it to each country to administer its own essay competition. And so in the case of Nigeria, they adjudged my essay to be the best in the country. And so I won the prize to go and spend 3 months in the United States. Right after my A-level, I went and had fun. Met very important people, President John F. Kennedy. We met because he was president at that time. Then we were taken to the United Nations. We met Ralph Bunche, who was the Deputy Secretary General. Then we met the father of Albert Gore Sr. He was a senator at that time. His son later became vice president of the United States to Clinton. So we met a lot of important
Not
people.
knowing that you one day become one of the top players at the UN. Wow.
So
Okay, so after the 3 months,
then I came back home, and don't you see, situate what's happening within world politics. Nigeria became independent in 1960. The United States and the Soviet Union were competing in Africa for influence. So all these programs that Americans were putting over was to compete with Russia to get young Africans to go to the United States to study, to prevent us from accepting scholarships to go to Moscow, the Soviet Union. So that's why a lot of scholarships became available to Nigerians, to Africans, I mean to the third world, because the essay program I went on, I met 30 other participants, but one from each country. I met somebody from Pakistan, I met somebody from India, I met somebody from Kenya, I met somebody from Ghana, just like that, from all over the world. We were young, about the same age, who were then exposed to the United States for 3 months.
so you said you had your university education in the US.
I did.
Where in particular?
Well, I was admitted to Temple University, where I did my bachelor's degree.
In law?
No, bachelor's degree in social science.
Social sciences.
You know, with the American degree, the first degree is always just broad, just to expose you.
It covers?
It covered everything.
Including law?
Including law. Then I went to the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy.
Also in the US?
In the US, jointly administered by Harvard and Tufts University. I took 2 master's degrees from there. One master's degree in international relations, another master's degree in law and diplomacy. Okay. So my law qualification is in international law. It's not in municipal law. The difference between the two is that, I cannot practice law in Nigerian court system, but I can write, and I do write, briefs on international law issues for, companies or countries that are involved and that are interested. For example, right now, a company had approached me to please do a brief for them about the impact of this Khashoggi crisis, the Saudi Arabian journalist that was killed.
Allegedly?
No, there is enough evidence now. But if you want to be legal about it, that was allegedly killed in Saudi Arabian consulate in Turkey. The influence, the possible influence on OPEC and oil politics, because Saudi Arabia itself is threatening retaliation if the international pressure on it, on Saudi Arabia, is going to amount to persecution. Saudi Arabia is also threatening that, you know, it could retaliate. It hasn't said so. That's the thing. So people who are involved are now asking experts, what are the possible things that Saudi Arabia could do if it decides to retaliate? And the area they are more interested in is on oil politics. Part of it also will involve, of course, the competition between Iran and Saudi Arabia in the Middle East. Iran being a Shiite country, where Saudi Arabia is a Sunni. So that then moves into the area of religion, where religious conflicts impact on world politics. Is Iran competing in Yemen because it's a Shiite power, or because it just wants to be a great power, you know, in the Middle East? Is Saudi Arabia resisting because it's a Shiite nation, or because it doesn't want another big player in its own backyard? So it's possible that even if Saudi Arabia were a Shiite country, there would still be conflict with Iran. These are the kind of things people consult you on and pay you.
So in between the period you obtained 2 additional master's degree, you are coming back to Nigeria?
No. I then went for a PhD at Oxford University in England.
Okay.
I went to do a PhD there. It was after that I then came back.
You came back to Nigeria?
Yeah.
What was your age then?
29.
29?
Yeah.
PhD? So when you came back to Nigeria armed with PhD, what did you venture into?
Well, you won't believe it. I first of all applied to the Nigerian Air Force. They didn't even answer me.
You wanted to become
a pilot.
Pilot?
Yeah, I wanted to become a pilot. Don't ask me why, I don't know. I just thought, well, you know.
They didn't ask you?
Yeah, they didn't even bother to acknowledge the application.
You didn't ask yourself why you were disqualified?
No. As I said, they didn't even bother to acknowledge that they got an application from some crazy guy with a PhD who wanted to be a pilot. Yeah. So I then applied to the University of Ibadan, and I was taken as a lecturer.
So it was your first government work?
Well, we don't regard university lecturers as working for government. Okay. You work for the university.
Okay.
Mm. And don't forget the universities, even though Ibadan was a federal government university, but with considerable independence, considerable autonomy. We were not dictated to by government, not like now where I understand, or it is alleged that, you know, government issues instructions to the universities.
When you entered, it wasn't so?
It wasn't so. There was no NUC. The university got the grant. The Senate of the university ran the university under Vice Chancellor, of course, and Governing Council.
How was the system being regulated then? Because NUC plays a regulatory...
Yeah, there was no NUC. And the regulations were simply... The whole idea was leave the university to run itself. That's what I mean. Autonomously. So, and it was basically the Senate. Of course, the Vice Chancellor would take an issue, you know, to the Senate. And the Senate, don't forget, the Senate was made up of university professors and university lecturers. And then the decision was taken. If you wanted to start a new department, the decision was taken by the Senate. And once Senate approved, the Vice Chancellor would then brief the governing council of the university, and that was the end of the matter. It wasn't taken anywhere else.
Okay. Well, viewers, the program is Reflections, and our guest today is Professor BOLAJI AKINYEMI, one of the longest Directors General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, and later Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister. Sir, let me ask you this question, sir. At what point in time did you decided to get married?
Well, you know, of course, you had girlfriends all along the way. But then once you got your PhD, it was then like, well, are you really ready, or should you work for some years before then entering? And you have pressure from your mother who's asking you, what are you waiting for? You've got all the degrees you want to get. You are earning a salary, you know. So what are you waiting for? Your colleagues are married and so on. So you can't be, well, all right. If that's the expectation, fine. So by my final year at Oxford, of course, I was dating a young lady who also was a student.
From Nigeria?
No, English.
Oh.
She was also a student at Oxford, and we got along and decided after I got my doctorate degree, before coming home, to get married, and we did.
You came back to Nigeria with a wife?
Yes.
Plus 3 degrees?
Yes. No, 4 degrees.
Okay, 4 degrees.
4 degrees, okay. Yeah.
So all along you were at the University of Ibadan? Yeah. Okay. So at what point in time did you become a professor?
Oh, much longer. Because there was an
that is the peak.
Yes.
You have reached the peak of your...
of one's academic career. But then don't forget that there was an interruption.
The interruption was when you were met?
The Director General of Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. By Murtala Mohammed, yeah. That was 1975. I was 33 years old then.
33?
Yeah.
You became the Director General?
Well, don't sound so surprised. The head of state was only 1 year older than me.
34?
34.
Yes. You were 34 years.
And his deputy, General Obasanjo, was, well, with General Obasanjo, you never can tell, but you know how old he was. But, all that, we were all in the same age group, you will say. So nobody really regarded me at the age of 33 as being too young, when the head of state himself was 34. So I became DGNI, spent 8 years there. So I left at the age of 41. By the age of 39, I had been offered a professorship at University of Lagos. But since I was at NI, I asked them to defer until I finished there. So when I finished at, I then got formally my letter of appointment as a professor.
And I went back to University of
Lagos.
Lagos.
Yes. So it was while I was there. I was only there for just 2 years or 1.5 years when General Ibrahim Babangida took over as head of state, military president, yes, and asked me to come and be his foreign minister. And the funny thing was, General Babangida was only about 4 months older than me.
4 months?
4 months.
Older than you?
Yes. So, so if you are going to go down that one, so you mean you were a minister at the age of 40-something? The head of state also was 40-something, you know.
So how did it happen, sir?
How
did it happen? You were made a minister?
Yeah. I'd known IBB. In fact, I'd known all of them, including even General Buhari, who took over in 83.
You knew each other?
Oh, yes, because they attended meetings and conferences and seminars at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. In fact, they were members. We offered them membership of the institute, which enabled them to use our library, a very well-stocked library, and also allowed them to interact, you know, with us. Yes. When you have a conference, and we prepared programs for the military. So we'd known each other, let me put it that way. My name was not strange to them, and their names were not strange to me. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you how did you cope working with the military, which is, you know, autocratic in nature? How did you cope?
Well, as long as you know who's boss, and they were, you know, they were the bosses. I was fortunate that I was dealing with foreign affairs, and so I had more latitude than presumably some of my colleagues who are dealing with domestic affairs. You know, yes, there may be some debate about appointment of ambassadors, but people don't get so het up about, you know, ambassadorial appointments as location of roads or location of wells or boreholes. You know, those are things that are impacting on local government. So I really wasn't involved in that. But the foreign policy, of course, also has its own conflicts.
Especially when you represent a military government.
Well, no, it was not because I was representing a military government. Frankly, out there, they don't care.
They don't care?
They don't care.
Up to now? Was it, is that what was obtained in those days or up to now?
Well, in those days, they didn't care. No, demilitarization became a fad in the 90s. I think military in government became unpopular in the 90s. Yes, the savior on horseback was no longer, you know, encouraged by the West. And so at that time, so you started popularizing, giving back power to the civilians. But when I was a minister, it made no difference to the people out there.
So, sir, because of that privilege you had of becoming Nigerian Forest Affairs Minister, is it right to say there is no part of this world that you have not been to?
That's true. That's quite true. That's quite true. You know.
There is no... They've been to any country that is worth
visiting. Let's put it that way, yes. And yeah, I was there. And in fact, you know, it's, I don't know. You have to ask the present minister what the situation is now. But what usually surprised me at the United Nations or meetings of non-aligned movement was how many heads of states will walk up to IBB and complain that their country had not been visited by Nigerian foreign minister. I remember, what's his name now? He was president of Cuba, Castro, walking up to IBB because we had a conference, I think in, excuse me, we had a conference in Zimbabwe, summit, or non-aligned summit, and Castro walked up to IBB and said, you know, your minister hasn't visited us. We are not, I mean, we know you as president will be happy to have you visit us, but we know how busy you are, but at least the foreign minister, you know, should visit. And I remember the king of Lesotho in South Africa saying this. I mean, he said, look, your foreign minister visits the frontline countries. My country is right within South Africa itself. It will strengthen our resolve if your foreign minister on one of these trips fly over, even if it's only for one day, doesn't need to sleep. The South Africans will see a Nigerian foreign minister flying over their territory. So IBB said, Your Majesty, consider it done. And right there, they brought another plane so that I could then fly from Zimbabwe straight to Lesotho. And the king said, because of it, I am leaving the conference right now to go back and wait to receive the foreign minister. You know, so at that time, we had a very high positive index in the world that people wanted to associate with us.
Not minding the fact that it is a military junta.
Oh, yeah. It didn't make a difference to them. At that time, the military had not become discredited by that time. So the military in governance was acceptable to them.
I was reading your CV, and there was this particular thing that I took interest of, that you are the brain behind the introduction of Technical Aid Corps. Why did you introduce Technical Aid Corps?
At the time I became minister, there had been complaints by Nigeria that we had become Father Christmas. You know, whenever anybody came around, you donate money. Gawan had gone to the West Indies and had given money, I think, I don't know whether it was Jamaica or somewhere, to pay their civil servants. So I then thought, instead of giving these people money, let us see how we can also benefit from it. If you give somebody money because he wants to equip a conference center, he takes the money and goes to France or Germany, buy the equipment he needs. There is nothing to say this is a gift from Nigeria. So I wanted to find a way in which we also will benefit from that on a long-term basis. Of course, you do. I mean, it would be foolish of me to say that, you know, I'm the only one who had ever thought of it. You don't reinvent the wheel. My mind then went to what Kennedy did with the Peace Corps program. Kennedy did the same thing, now sending American kids to foreign countries. So the money spent on those kids, even though you regard it as part of your assistance to other countries, but it is spent on Americans. So that's where it then clear that we could do the same thing. And of course,
replicated.
Yeah, I then went to IBB, and IBB liked new ideas. He got easily bored with you telling him to do the same thing that has been done by Balewa, done by, you know, Ironsi, done by, that bored him. Okay. So he was fascinated by this, and he told me to go and put up a paper, which we did, and we took it to council. And I won't say council approved it, IBB approved it. Because,
unilaterally?
well, no, he was presiding, and, you know, the thing about the presidential system is once you get the president on your side, cabinet has no choice but to go along. It's only when they think the president is lukewarm that individual cabinet members then start. You know. In this case, IBB was the last one to speak, to summarize, and it reminded me of, I think it was Abraham Lincoln who presided over his cabinet at one time, and at the end he then said, cabinet members, you know, I think that there were 40 votes. Okay. The president, 1 vote. The president carries it. So, you know, so IBB approved, okay, and we went into the field to implement. And I'm quite happy that it is still going on, even up till today. When you speak to the people there, they will tell you they are overwhelmed by the requests they get from, you know, African countries, Caribbean countries, Pacific countries. They are overwhelmed. Okay. And all this means is that those who have gone, because it's just a 2-year program, have performed so brilliantly that even those countries want the program continued. If those people have gone to disgrace Nigeria, if they've performed below par, the program wouldn't continue. And you will have had a lot of complaints and so on. Have you ever heard of a technical aid corps being expelled from a country? No.
Okay. So the fact that you served a military junta did not eventually stop you from becoming a Democrat?
I've always been a Democrat.
You've always been a Democrat?
Yes.
Okay.
I regard myself as a technocrat in government.
Okay, sir. Now, as an expert in international affairs, sometime back, the Nigerian government ceded Bakassi land to Cameroon. Sir, what implication do you think that will continue to have on Nigeria?
Well, let me phrase my answer this way. It was a wrong decision taken. Or, more truthfully, 2 wrong decisions were taken. I became involved with the Bakassi issue when I became DGNI, and President Shagari asked for a paper on Bakassi when he became president. It was not an issue under Murtala and Obasanjo first coming. It was not an issue. It became an issue under Shagari when the Cameroonians started raising the question of Bakassi. And we prepared a paper.
It's so special about the Bakassi Peninsula?
It's an oil-rich peninsula. And it also controls the shipping lane around that area. So whoever's in control of it, first of all, you know, control the oil wells around that vicinity. And also he controls the shipping lane that goes into that area. He pushes the Nigerian boundary back. So we lost oil wells. We lost very, very rich fishery grounds. And also it affects the passage of the Nigerian Navy in terms of the to go up there. It controls it. So we prepared the paper for President Shagari, and the conclusion was never allow this issue to go to the International Court of Justice, to the World Court. Don't allow it. We must resolve this diplomatically. Our best chance of keeping Bakassi was to resort to diplomacy. And Shagari accepted the paper and conclusion. So it was not an issue. Then Shagari managed to bottle it up. When Buhari got there, it was not an issue. When I was a foreign minister, it was not an issue. It was when Abacha became head of state. For reasons best known, Cameroon went to the World Court. Now, all Abacha needed to do was to refuse to put in an appearance
at the court.
At the court. Unlike the domestic court, you cannot be forced to put in an appearance at the World Court. You cannot be forced. Sovereign issue.
So which means Nigeria had the option?
Yeah, of refusing to put in an appearance.
But why did...
it was badly advised by the people who were advising him.
That is Abacha? Oh.
Abacha, yes, Abacha was badly advised. And I wouldn't say that money was involved, but there were lawyers who were going to earn huge briefs, be paid in dollars, who were encouraging him and who assured him that Nigeria had a very strong case. Nigeria didn't have a strong case. As DJNI, when we were preparing that paper, I consulted Justice Udo Udoma, I consulted Justice Elias, who was our Attorney General and later on became a judge. Yes, Teslim Elias. I consulted Justice Dadion Yema, who also has served in the World Court. Consulted all these people, and their answer was, legally, we didn't have a strong case, so don't let this matter go to court. So but eventually Abacha was persuaded. I won't mention the names of the lawyers involved, that no, we had a strong case, we stand a chance of winning. So he then put in an appearance. So that's the first bad decision taken.
And the second decision?
The second bad decision taken was President Obasanjo, during his now second coming as a civilian president, giving an assurance before the court gave its judgment that Nigeria will obey whatever decision the court took. You don't
not minding the consequences.
No minding. You don't do that. You wait at least to hear the judgment of the court, and then you not decide what to do. If the judgment doesn't favor you, you refuse to accept the judgment of the court. There are many decisions of the World Court that the United States has refused to accept. And several. And the heavens haven't fallen. So you just then admit that, no, you don't accept this. And, you know, Cameroon is a brother country. We have brotherly relations. We will resolve this matter diplomatically and all that kind of thing. But you went to commit yourself to implementing the decisions of the court without knowing what that decision would be. So, of course, when the decision then came and it was against us, Obasanjo had already shot himself in the foot.
He had no option then?
He had no option. Other heads of states will look for some way of saying, no, the court has been misled. And, you know, there are usually ways of doing these things.
So is it a lost case?
It's a lost case. It's a lost case. You cannot reverse it. To reverse it will lead you into war with Cameroon. Don't forget, behind Cameroon is France. Cameroon is one of the strongest French outposts in Africa. And when you recall that the war between India and Pakistan over the Kashmir has been going on now for 60 years. You don't want that kind of a war between Nigeria and Cameroon that will go into several generations and still unresolved.
Okay, sir, you are one of those who struggled very seriously for the entrenchment of democracy, most especially the time when, during the June 12 saga. Sir, are you okay? I mean, what is your assessment of the Nigerian journey to democracy so far?
We have civilian governance. We don't have democratic governance.
Now, second to the last question, sir. In a few months' time, Nigerians will be going to the polls. I am sure you must have one or two advice to give to the electors on how best, to see to the actualization of this national, assignment.
Well, first of all, let me appeal to all contestants, all parties. Please avoid hate speeches. Avoid hate speeches. You and I can sit down and listen and come to the conclusion this man wants us to become enemies and tune off. But how about the people who are not as educated as you and I, who are then going to say, oh, is that true? I'm going to deal with where, because there is no part of Nigeria where we don't have communities that are not indigenous. To that part of Nigeria, you are putting their lives at risk. And anything that happens in one corner of Nigeria is going to reverberate all over Nigeria. So please avoid hate speeches. 2, avoid violence. And on election day, go and cast your ballot. It doesn't really bother me what influences people to vote one way or the other. Look at the election of Trump in America. I would never have believed in my entire life that somebody like Trump would be elected president of the United States. But they went to elections and there he is. So the question is not whether Buhari gets in or Atiku gets in. Let it be peaceful. And whoever loses, let him do what Jonathan did. Stretch out your hand, congratulate the winner.
In the interest of?
In the interest of the country. Your own personal interest cannot be higher than the collective interest of Nigeria.
Yes.
But get your supporters to vote. There will always be shenanigans. There have always been shenanigans in Nigerian voting system. So there will be controversy. But 4 years in the life of a nation, what is that? Whoever is declared a winner in 4 years' time will have to come back and face you and I again. So that's my advice.
Thank you very much, sir, for having time to be with us. Well, viewer, that's how far we can go in this edition of the program. On behalf of our guest, Professor BOLAJI AKINYEMI, and the entire crew that made it possible for you to be with us, I remain yours, Muhammad Abubakar, saying, have a nice time.